Welcome to the Million Gold Nuggets podcast, where four dynamic women unite to share transformative insights on mindset, manifestation, spirituality, and the invaluable gems of wisdom that can elevate your life. We are parents, entrepreneurs, and friends from diverse corners of North America, passionate about sharing the lessons we've learned and implemented in our own journeys. Each week, join Jennine, Leslie, Amber, and myself as we dive into heartfelt conversations that inspire and uplift, blending personal development strategies, manifestation, and practical wisdom. Whether you're aiming for success, seeking personal growth, or simply looking to fine-tune your mindset and energy, we've got the golden nuggets you need to turn your dreams into reality. So grab your favorite drink, get comfy, and prepare to soak up the invaluable insights that can spark your transformation. Together, let's forge a path of collective growth and expansion, because the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. Welcome to the show. I'm your host for today, Nicole. So nice to have you here. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the perpetual transmutation of energy. What does this mean? Why is it so impactful? And how can we use it to our advantage? But before we dive in a little bit deeper, I want to say hello to my beautiful co-host. Hello, co-host.
Hello.
How is everybody?
Good.
Fantastic.
Right.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited for us to dive into the topic of perpetual transmutation of energy. We're continuing the discussion on the universal laws, and this one is a really, really good one. So, in its most basic terms, the perpetual transmutation of energy states that energy cannot either be created or destroyed. So it is perpetual. And transmutation means, so what does perpetual mean? Always, forever, infinite, right? Transmutation means that it is changing states. So think of water going from water to ice to steam, that type of thing. And also in metaphysics, we think of it more so in terms of like feelings, actions, behaviors. And it suggests that individuals can influence their energy and circumstances by changing their thoughts and their beliefs and their actions. So before we get into this, hang on a second here, ladies. Here we go. I just wanted to pull down my questions. My computer wasn't cooperating. So I wanted to ask you ladies, how has the perpetual transmutation of energy impacted your life personally?
Well, I guess I can say, because I know that energy is always moving, and when I take action, it turns into something else. So like if I'm going to the gym, which I do all the time, and I'm moving my body, and I find that like doing that energy allows me to, my body changes, and I have more energy after I've worked out. So it's all like going from maybe a low state of vibration to a higher state of vibration in the way that I feel. So it really does impact. It impacts my life, knowing that, okay, if I'm doing something or I'm feeling a way, it can be changed into something else. Just the energy is changed. So if I'm feeling low, I know I can get into a different state so that I'm on a higher vibration and I feel better.
I love that. That's such a great example.
Yeah. And for me, just by knowing that the law of perpetual transmutation includes my thoughts and my emotions, I try or attempt to keep my thoughts stayed on good things, because that will transmute or change into the physical.
Such a good point.
Yeah, thoughts into things, right?
Yeah.
Keeping
Yeah.
your thoughts where you want them to be, right? Because if
Yeah.
you're,
Absolutely.
yeah, if you're thinking the thoughts that you don't want, it's going to transmute into those things.
Yeah, what is your dominant, like what are your dominant thoughts, right? Like, because that's going to be the energy that transmutes at the end of the day, right? Like, you know, we don't want you to get all fearful for having a wrong or negative thought, right? And thinking that you're going to manifest that immediately. It's not that, but it's like, where are you setting up camp most of your day? That's what's going to start transmuting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. It's because we're always manifesting, right? Because everything's energy. We're always manifesting. And so it goes back to like the law of vibration, which was a couple episodes back, right? We talked about that. And I feel like it's very similar. Right? Because we're always vibrating, right? What vibration are we on? What frequency are we on? Right? What are we manifesting? Things like that. So I love the water example that you brought up, Nicole, because it reminds me of like an ocean, right? And it's like, and it's always changing state, right? The water's doing whatever the heck water wants to do, right? But it's
Yeah.
not doing it in a fearful state, in a stressed out state, right? It's literally just flowing. And wherever the wind takes it, or wherever the shore takes it, or, you know, the mother nature, right? It's just kind of flowing. And so I think it goes back to kind of like what you guys talked about, like what are we flowing with, right? Like what state are we in? What vibration are we on, right? So the energy, right? What are we flowing with? And it's not to, right, like bully ourselves when we're in a certain state that we don't want to be in, but it's more of noticing it. And then like the ocean, all right, now let's flow back the other direction, right? So I really like that.
Yeah. Everything is constantly moving and constantly transforming. I mean, like look at the seasons, right? There's, you know, birth and there's death. And then, you know, we see that every season, right? When the leaves die off, the flowers, you know, die off, everything kind of goes into a slumber. And then we see the rebirth in the summer, right? Everything is always in motion. It's always moving, it's always changing. So what can, you know, if we apply that to our thoughts, our feelings, and our actions, how, you know, where are we transmuting, or how are we transmuting? What are we creating? Right? And if we're not creating, we're, I think Bob used to say disintegrating, or Bob Proctor, he said, I think he used the word disintegrating, or, you know, for lack of a better word, decomposing.
Not expanding, you're disintegrating essentially, yeah, because that's what we're here to do, is expand, right? And to grow.
Yeah.
So if you're not doing any of those, then essentially, I mean, you are kind of dying at a slow rate, right? Because you're, yeah, like you said, disintegrating. So it's kind of one or the other. And that doesn't mean in each moment, right? Like it's not
No.
like, right? But it's, you know, over time accumulated and stuff like that. Like where are we going towards? So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's what we were meant to do, is to be transforming from one state to the next and not staying the same.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And creation. I love that.
And I know, and I've heard that like people that don't do anything, that's why they feel not good. They don't feel good, like they can get into depressed states, because they don't have any type of good feeling inside of them that they're taking action towards something, right? And taking action towards something, whatever that might be, makes you feel good. And that's the transformation of the energies, right? So if you're doing nothing, it just stays stagnant, and then you feel heavy and your vibration is low, and that's not what we're meant to do. We're meant to keep moving and to keep the energy moving and to keep the energy clearing out of our bodies as well, right?
Well, it's
Yeah,
hard to
that
create if we're not taking action. right?
Mhm.
If you're not going out and experiencing and living in the world, it's very, very hard to create anything. And I think that that's really part of our purpose, and part of our fulfillment, to feel whole as a human being, like we've got something to wake up for every day,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, that just brings to mind ascension, the word ascension and descension. You know, the law of perpetual transmutation. Okay, and our feelings or our thoughts, whatever, are we ascending in the thoughts? Or are we changing that form to go down and descending in our thoughts and actions?
Mm.
I love that. That is so good. And it's such a great question to ask ourselves, right? Like, are we ascending in our thoughts, or are
Yeah.
we ascending, right? What are we creating? What are we transmuting into the physical? Because wasn't it Neville Goddard that said, anything held on the screen of the mind with will and persistence will manifest into the physical by law?
Yep.
Yeah. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's exactly right, but you guys get the
yeah,
You got it.
that's basically it. And I mean, it's almost scripture too. Not really, almost, because in Romans it says, "Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind." And what does that mean? To me, it's the law of perpetual transmutation, because you can be transformed by the renewing of your thoughts, mind.
I love that. What you think about, you bring about, right?
Yeah, and that word transform is, to me, transmutation.
Yes. I love that. I love that. Because, yeah, transmutation, that's exactly what it is. It's going from one state to another. Just
Yeah.
like ice or water or steam. It's like, what are we creating? What are we
Mhm.
making, right?
Mhm.
So, if we believe this law to be true, how can we use this knowledge to create the life that we really want?
Well, I think it's what we were just talking about, was watching your thoughts, right? So, what is and you had said it earlier, Nicole, what's your dominant thought that you're always thinking of? That's what's going to show up in your life, right? So if you are not liking what you see in front of you and what's happening to you, then you got to sit back and think, okay, what am I thinking about? Because that's what you're attracting, right? So that's the first thing, is like, I want to focus on the things that I desire, not the things that I don't want.
Yeah, that's like, I mean, I see that as working on muscle memory, where you're keeping in mind what you, or who you truly see yourself as, or who you truly desire to be, and be that, and keep your thoughts in your mind on that person that you see yourself as, and eventually you will transform into being that person, as long as you continue to be that person within yourself while you're thinking about who it is you want to be.
It just
Sounds a
kind of
little bit.
reminds me, like, to be persistent and consistent,
Yeah.
because with
Yeah.
that, then
And who
it'll,
you want to see yourself as.
yeah, and then that's going to transform into your reality of who you are and the things in your life and the people in your life.
Yeah, and no, I have to say too, that's also biblical, because it also says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. And there you go.
Yeah, I love that. And, considering that it is perpetual, transmutation of energy. This means that it is happening all the time,
Always.
24/7. We do not have an on and off switch. We do not wake up one day and, even though you have the best of intentions, you don't just say, like, because you're consciously aware of your manifestation, right? Like, you're going to go and manifest today. Well, let me tell you, you're manifesting all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's nothing you can do to stop energy from flowing.
No.
So as long as you know that it's always flowing, keep those thoughts, on a good high vibration as much as you possibly can, because that's what you're going to get back.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Where your attention flows, or how does it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Your
Energy goes.
Yeah, or there you go. Thank you so much. Does anybody want to add anything to that before we move on to the next question?
Well, I was just thinking, like, you're wanting, knowing that this law is true, we talked about our thoughts, but I think we also have to have action towards that. So whatever it is that we're desiring, we're doing something as well. Right. And then we were saying about our thoughts, well, how can we like I said, consistent and persistent, but you can do things like affirmations. You can practice your gratitude to say thank you for being a certain way or having certain things. Journaling, meditation, all of those help with that, reality changing into what you want it to be, and using that law of, the perpetual transformation, right?
That's actually,
Yeah.
you've answered my question, and have given me really great answers as to what we can do today to transmute our energy. And you just said exactly what we were looking for there. So those are great ways to, to start to transmute, your energy, right? Changing from one state to another.
Yeah, I want to reflect back on what Leslie said about taking action. Also, in it's biblical in Hebrews, it says, what is seen was not made out of what was visible. And so, if what is seen is not made out of what is visible, then somebody had to take action to make it happen.
To see the
To
visual.
make it visible, to make it yeah, yes, make it visible.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm reminded of like a dress designer or somebody who comes up with blueprints, like an architect, they have to see it somewhere. Somebody had to see it in their mind. They saw it on the screen of their mind first, and then they saw action. They didn't just sit there and imagine it all day. Yes, they did. They had to visualize it and see it and see it as a complete thing, and then take the actions towards it, right? But it was transmuting that thought into a physical thing.
Yeah, and that's how we need to treat our lives. Create the blueprint of what you want to see, and it will transmute into that.
Yes, I love that. I love that. What a great point to end on. If nobody has anything else to add to that, I think that was beautifully said. Are we good? Awesome. Well, thanks, ladies, for joining in on this conversation on the perpetual transmutation of energy. It's certainly a mouthful, but you can see how powerful it is. And if you think about it in the simplest terms, thoughts into things, what are you thinking about is what you're going to bring about, right? So thanks everyone for tuning into the Million Gold Nuggets podcast. If you got value out of this episode or think someone might benefit from it, please hit the share button and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss an episode. Until we meet again, remember, the journey to fulfillment is all about collecting those precious gold nuggets. Have a great day.